Hi there, this is Tracey DeVette from traceydevette.com and tdwhypnotherapy.co.uk. So in this short video, I'd like to just discuss why anybody would want to book a strategy call and find out more about what I do. I found out more about what your problem, issue, or struggle is, and we see if we're a good fit for therapy and whether I can actually help you or not. So why would you even want to book this call? Well, modern living, I think, is one of the biggest issues that we have these days, and there is widespread fear and anxiety around. And the anxiety gets even worse because as a species, we have developed to deal with fear and the anxiety response. The initial fear and anxiety response is to get you to be safe. So if you are being confronted by a dangerous animal or a dangerous situation out in the wild where humans have lived for thousands of years, the automatic nervous response dumps a whole lot of chemicals into your bloodstream in response to a trigger, and that's normally an environmental trigger. So comes in via one of the senses, and it could be visual, it could be auditory, it could be feel, touch, taste, smell, all of those things. And in fact, if you think if you're living in a cave and some bear or wolf came in looking for its next meal, all of those senses would probably be involved. So the human has been developed to run further, fight back harder, assess the situation very quickly, and take physical action, which is great because when that happens, all that cortisol, adrenaline, etc., that's been dumped into the system gets the body ready for fight or flight, or even in some cases, freeze. Because it's a physical action, the evasive action, the fighting, the whatever, the hiding, it then gives those chemicals a chance to be used up by muscle tension, muscle use, heavy breathing, that kind of thing. A physical way of using up all of that the chemicals reduce in the bloodstream and in the system, and eventually get reabsorbed and counteracted by the body's other chemicals, and this goes away. Unfortunately, in modern life, the things that scare us are normally not physical. They are environmental, they could be, but they're more likely to be something that we've thought of in our mind. And the mechanism by which these responses are triggered is all the same, even though the scenarios change. So the part of your brain that runs on subconscious programs does not know the difference between the amount of fear that you should be feeling in response. It just knows that the response has been triggered. And this could be a response of standing up and talking to people, giving a meeting at work, having to explain something to your boss, having a difficult client, or an argument with a colleague, something like that. It's more likely to be something like that that causes the stress than any physical danger. And what happens is the same fight or flight response is triggered. Body dumps all these chemicals ready to help you make a quick getaway or put up a strong fight or whatever to keep you safe. However, there is no physical outlet for this, and there's no natural way for these chemicals to go back down. If this happens once or twice in a week or a month or whatever, your system would have the chance to reprocess these chemicals and absorb them back into the body. But when this happens on a long-term sustained basis, for instance, if you've got a stressful job, every morning that you walk in and you see your workload or something didn't happen right yesterday, it's going to trigger that response. And eventually your system just gets overwhelmed and it becomes very difficult to switch it off. And anybody who's suffered with long-term anxiety will know exactly what I mean, that physical shaking, that pit of the stomach dread, that body trembling, maybe you have to visit the bathroom more often, maybe you're sweating, maybe you're going hot and cold. Those are real symptoms. They're real symptoms. And when it becomes generalized anxiety, it is extremely difficult to switch them off. Just thinking about it is not going to do it. There are other things that can help, such as going for a walk, a run, going to gym, doing something physical to use up all these chemicals in a positive way so that you get them through your system. But you'd have to do one heck of a lot of physical exercise to get rid of it at that level, especially if it's happening on an almost daily basis. Now, we all have different levels of reserves and resilience. And so for some people, their bodily and mental systems might be more sensitive or not be as robust as other people. And when we hit the limit of our resources in that way, there is very little that we can do about it ourselves. And that's where I come in, or somebody like me who deals with stress and anxiety. Because at some point in your past, your subconscious mind has made a link between the trigger and the response. And it normally gets laid down early in life in response to learning about your environment and something that you've learned possibly the hard way or the scary way, anything to do with fear and avoidance and rejection. Those kind of things get laid down. And this forms the root for the anxiety later on. So if your system is always functioning with a certain amount of low-level anxiety, you might not even realize that it's happening. You might just think, well, I'm a bit of an overthinker. Perhaps you have over-the-top tendencies like OCD. Doesn't have to even be full-blown OCD, but maybe you're a perfectionist, that kind of thing. That kind of person tends to be extremely successful and driven as well. And it's because of the same process. So it normally happens to executives, business people, business owners, stars of the stage and that kind of thing. And it becomes really debilitating and really shocking to somebody like that in the rest of their world, they're in control, they've done really well, they're driven, they're able to push forward. But this underlying anxiety eventually, with too much external stress, tips over into full-blown anxiety and possibly even a long-term anxiety disorder. Now, the sooner you get help, the better. I can't stress that enough. Please do not leave it. And if you're watching this because you're in that situation already, it's time to get some help right now. Now, what people normally do is very often they'll go to their GP, and the GP default mode is really to give you medication, which can help some people. That's a fact, but there's a lot of people that it doesn't help either. And you'll go through the rounds of trying one medication after the next. Nearly all of them have horrible side effects. It's great if you find one that helps you. That does happen. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but in a lot of cases it doesn't work, or it doesn't work for long enough, or it doesn't work enough. And the stressor or the reason for this anxiety or very strong anxiety reaction is still there because the root cause has never been sorted. The same goes for counseling. So that's the other thing people go through. Right, we'll go and talk about it. And you can talk about this all day long. Consciously, you can know exactly what's happening, what the triggers are, what to look out for, when it's going to happen, all of this. But when it's conscious knowledge, it's not going to stop the subconscious reaction. The only way we're going to stop the subconscious reaction is to access that memory. The safest and the most effective way to do that is under hypnosis, where you go into a specific brainwave state where your conscious mind can get out the way, stop making excuses, stop dictating what's going on. You just relax to the point where your subconscious mind can be accessed, and it accepts the suggestions to let this go. And it really is that simple. It really is that simple. The difficulty sometimes is getting to that root cause, and it's up to the person who's receiving the therapy. It's all up to you. It's what you allow and how relaxed you can get yourself. That doesn't always happen in the first session, which is why I usually recommend 4 sessions, because in 4 sessions we can clear just about all of these stresses. Because although there'll be an initial sensitizing incident, there may be other ones connected to it as well at different times and ages in your life. They trigger the same response, but the actual way that they were laid down can be different. So there are different scenarios and different ways that you can get triggered. And that's why you would be wanting to get some help, because you need it as soon as possible, because what you've tried simply hasn't worked. I get people telling me they've read every self-help book they could get their hands on. They've been to see gurus when they visited from overseas. They felt fantastic for like half an hour a day, maybe even a week. Perhaps you've even done those self-help exercises up to a month, but it still does not take away the root cause. And that's what we need to deal with when we're working with anxiety. So if you were thinking about booking a strategy call with me, go ahead and do that now. You can find my Calendly link. You can find my website, www.tdw-hypnotherapy.co.uk or traceydevette.com as it's written up there, and book that call with me. That call will involve me asking you a bit of probing around the questions and answers that you give me. I'll be asking you specific questions. They don't have to be particularly detailed. So if it is an extremely traumatic experience that this is all linked to, you don't have to go into all the nitty-gritty. We don't need it in hypnotherapy. It's one of the therapies where the therapist really does not need to know all the details, because it doesn't help me to help you. I need to know some of it, but I certainly don't need to know all of it. And anyway, what you're telling me with your conscious mind is what you believe consciously to be true. In most cases, the way that it's actually happened and the way that your subconscious mind sees it is normally very different. And people get surprised all the time when they're under hypnosis as these things come up and they realize that things are connected that they never suspected or that they've completely forgotten about. So all of that happens during the therapy. It really doesn't have to be discussed or in any great detail during the discovery call. I just need to know enough. I need to know enough to know that, is this something that I can help you with? It might be a deeper issue, or it might be linked to actual physiological damage, in which case hypnosis might not be the best remedy. There are other reasons why hypnosis might not work in this case, but hypnosis will work for the majority of cases if I feel that you're in the right state of mind to work with. And that's all I'm trying to find out in this discovery call, is what the issue is. Is it something I feel I can help with? And do I feel that if we work together, we're going to get a good outcome? I'm very upfront about this. I'm very honest about that. If I can't help you, I'll be the first one to say, I'm not sure about this. Perhaps you need to return to a psychiatrist or a doctor to get help more along medical lines than actual hypnosis. The other great thing about the discovery call is that you can ask me questions as well. What would you like to know about hypnosis and hypnotherapy and the other techniques that I use? So if you haven't already booked that call, book it now. There's no time like the present. And if you have booked that call, I'm really, really excited and looking forward to speaking with you. Have a great day or a great evening, as the case may be. Tracey from traceydevette.com.